Hey guys, what's going on? We're back with another Enhancement Shaman Mythic Plus video on the PTR doing a plus 15 Blinding Vale. And unfortunately I wasn't able to get like a screenshot of my actual gear, but it's pretty darn close to what I saw. I just tried to get onto the PTR and apparently it's down. And yeah, but it is what it is. Its talents are the same, but the gear is slightly different. I swapped out a few pieces to get a little bit more haste and mastery in from the old set because it gets knocked up with item level thanks to the buff for the PTR. So, yeah, it's not perfect, but it is what it is. But, anyways, question I have for everybody, if you've been testing Enhance at all on the PTR, is Enhance strong right now? Well, I'm genuinely curious. Now, I haven't come across anything too insane, and recently Blizzard just released patch notes for the PTR as well, some changes, which Enhanced did not receive anything, but it's fair to say I think some other classes got some heavy nerfs. Now, in this dungeon, I kept up with the Ret Paladin and Unholy DK really well. And honestly, our damage profile feels really good. The comparison to season one or current season that's going on, it feels much better. I don't feel as useless outside of Ascendance. I really don't. Same with Doom Winds. I like if I don't get a proc of Doom Winds, obviously, yeah, it feels different, but I don't feel absurdly outclassed. As I say this, I'm getting dumpstered by the tank. Well, I was, and the 2 TPS, so that doesn't really help my case now, does it? But in all honesty, it does feel better. It does. Like the gap between cooldowns and base damage actually feels pretty good. There's still some tuning I assume that's going to happen. Um but in my opinion, right now we're doing pretty solid. We really are. Um but there's nothing too insane. Although in the last video I did that was the B tier, we had both a Affliction Warlock and I want to say a Mage or something, and I got I think it's fair that the Affliction Warlock just absolutely destroyed me in overall, and I died. Wow, I died. Oh yeah, I'm the only one that dies in this dungeon, by the way. It's kind of sad. Well, technically, and we actually did time this. I should have mentioned that earlier, but um, yeah, I got dumpstered by the Affliction Warlock and stuff. And then I'm also seeing some clips of like Arms Warrior, seeing some things on Frost DK. These classes just doing insane amounts of damage, and I'm thinking, okay, and I I genuinely think we're doing fine as enhancement. I mean, I kept up with Ret and Unholy, which I think is somewhat fair. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know what other classes are looking like, but I can say I feel like we're looking okay. At the very least, I think we're looking okay. Um, but I've tried looking up tier lists and I see a few things here and there, but no, like I haven't seen any actual like damage outputs or anything like that. I haven't seen some actual numbers of what people have done, but typically on the PTR, numbers are scarce and ever changing because people are testing things, you know, moving around and stuff. But I do think we are looking pretty good. Now I see some more tuning in the future for enhance because although it does feel better, I think they want to go a little bit further, and I don't blame them because Ascendance and Doomwind still feel significantly more powerful than base Enhance right now. And although it's not like the biggest problem, they really do want to bring down the cooldown dependence, which I like. I like. So I think we could see some like Storm Strike buffs, maybe some more Chain Lightning buffs, but again, buffing our Maelstrom spenders isn't really going to do a whole lot for increasing our base value because of Thorm's invocation. Even though you buff Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, it's still buffing Thorm's Invocation, which is in turn buffing Ascendance and Doom Winds. So it really doesn't change a whole lot if they buff that. Um, but the big problem is if they keep buffing Storm Strike, right? At what point do we become Storm Strike only and not even spending our Maelstrom, right? So it's definitely a really tough spot right now. But I think if they were to go about it, I think we could see some more niche buffs like we'll take Blaze, seeing as it is our tier set. Maybe even Fire Nova, that would be really nice. I really would love to see some more Fire Nova buffs. It's being the tier set, it kind of makes sense that they might buff it. Flame Shock getting buffed, that'd be really good, right? More niche spells that we haven't quite seen going too crazy this season, but making it a bit more bit more I'm not really sure, a bit more powerful, I guess. So seeing Flame Shock would be pretty good. Like I said, we'll take Blaze, firing over those small things, and then maybe a little bit on the other side where buffing maybe Lightning Rod might be okay for Stormbringer. Although that one's a little dicey considering it plays around Lightning Bolt and our Maelstrom spenders. Not now that I think about it, maybe not. Maybe a little bit of buff to Crash Lightning, seeing as it is pretty crazy right now. It's got our Apex, and it's really built into our tier sets. Actually, both season 1 and season 2 tier sets seem to be a little bit revolving around Crash Lightning, which is kind of cool. Um, but also maybe for Totemic, we could see some Searing Totem buffs, maybe a Earth Surge buff, maybe? Probably not, but more or less, I would like to see a Sundering buff. That'd be, in my opinion, the best thing to do because
Only the strongest
it
survive.
definitely feels a little bit weak. Sundering doesn't feel as powerful as it used to, in my opinion, but it is what it is. Overall, though, like I said, we are feeling pretty good, at least from a like a play standpoint. I don't know if anybody would actually say enhance feels terrible. I know from my experience, Totemic does feel a little bit more cluttered in comparison to Stormbringer. Um, and the reason for that isn't necessarily the fact that it's revolving around both lava lash and stuff. I think it's more of totem placement. So it'd be nice if the totem would activate on like a voltaic blaze, for instance, or a lava lash. I don't know, some sort of buff where we just have it near us or something rather than having to keep placing it down. It's tough to say. I'm really not sure, but overall, like both Totemic and Stormbringer feel pretty good. Totemic is a little bit behind in my opinion. Um, it just like it got hit harder with the changes that we got, the adjustments. So the buffs to Maelstrom spenders, although it does affect Totemic, it more or less buffs Stormbringer in my opinion, and then they hit the totem, which it seems kind of odd to me that they would hit the totem. Now it makes sense because they want to reduce damage output from the cooldowns, but it it really is the core part. So it's really tough to like say, yeah, that was the right choice or anything because like Totemic, it really should be about the totem, but if they go ahead and buff Searing Totem, I'd be okay with that too, because it is a big part of it as well, and it's still um falling into that totemic fantasy, right? Using totems to deal damage and stuff like that. So hopefully we see some sort of buff there. But if we don't, I really don't see us being in a bad position. I glanced over the changes to the PTR, and when I say glanced, I mean I really did take a look. I don't like they're not fully they're not blue notes, so they're not like percentages or anything. You could just see value changes and stuff. It looks like, I think if I read it correctly, it looks like a lot of classes got nerfed. Um, Enhanced General did not get changed. They did, however, change our season one tier set to be nerfed. I I guess it makes sense, but okay. But yeah, like we're not getting changes, which is good, because we're not getting nerfed, right? That's the thing we gotta look at. We're not getting nerfed. That's the important part to think about. It's not whether or not we're getting buffed. We're not getting nerfed, and it is what it is. Blizzard's slowly figuring it out. Maybe they just need another week of data to figure out what to do. But overall, I think we are in a solid position right now for the season. It's always good to be on the lower end during PTR testing, anyways, because like what's happening right now is all those big specs are getting slapped. They really are. At least from what I could tell. Hopefully, Blue Notes come out soon enough, and we can really say for sure. But yeah, it's not that bad. Um, but it is what it is. Onto another note, though, we will be testing. Well, we're getting the new, well, returning dungeons, I guess. King's Rest, Ruby Life Pools, and I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember the last one. I really can't. Uh, crap. Anyways, we're gonna be testing those right away, because I am most worried about King's Rest. And this week is also Battle for Azeroth time walking on live servers. So I'm sure some of you have ran into that dungeon and been like, this is awful. And I completely agree. I completely agree. But there were a lot of notes for changes into King's Rest, the same with Ruby Life Pools. So I am genuinely excited to see what they have done with it and what further changes they plan to do as well. So we'll be going right into that, testing away and trying to figure out what the heck's going on with it. Because, like, when I first heard the lineup for the dungeon pool, I was not happy. I would rather see a Tall Dazar rather than King's Rest for sure. But honestly, if I'm being totally honest, I would have liked to seen them pick up like a classic dungeon and remaster it. I know it's a lot of work. I get that, just one dungeon each season maybe they could pick up and remaster and bring it back. And that would have been Zul'Farrak. Zul'Farrak would have been really cool. Zul'Gurub or Zulaman. Any of those ones would have been really, really cool, but they chose King's Rest, which had a lot of hate towards it back in Battle for Azeroth, that's for sure. At least in my opinion. Um, but it is what it is. It is what it is. If it's going to be anything like this season, we won't necessarily have a bad dungeon, in my opinion. Like, for the current live season, there is no bad dungeon. I mean, there's a dungeon that people would prefer not to do, but I don't think anybody's like, steer clear of this one. You know what I mean? Like in the War Within, we had whatever that Dark Iron one was. Uh, we had quite a few of those dungeons that people were just like, nah. City of Threads, that one was bad. That was bad. Nobody liked doing that one. That one was, that was it's just beyond bad. Um, Dawnbreaker, in my opinion, that was awful. Not because of the dungeon design, but because of how many stupid bugs were in the dumb dungeon. If they could have fixed all the flying bugs and stuff like that in the dungeon, would have been fine. But unfortunately, they weren't able to fix those. But then you have bangers like Cinderbrew Meadery, which, in my opinion, was my favorite because of the massive bowl sizes. And, the Blinding Veil is really giving me those pull size vibes, right? Like, these pull sizes are pretty freaking awesome, and I love it. And I think everybody can agree, in a dungeon, the bigger you pull, the more enjoyable the game is. It could just be me. I don't know. But that, in my opinion, the more you can pull, the more fun the dungeon becomes because you get to see bigger numbers, crazier things happen, more entertaining things happen as well. So, but yeah, overall, not bad. The Blinding Vale, however, currently is listed out of the, I want to say it's 5 dungeons that are currently out. It is currently listed as the hardest. Now, I'm going to be honest, it didn't feel that bad to me. Now we are on a 15, and I don't know if these guys are doing like, 22s or something ridiculous like that. Um, but it didn't feel that bad. Although some of the mobs, and you will notice going into or on our way to the final boss, some of the mobs do feel exceptionally tanky, as in like they just don't feel like they're ever gonna fall over. I don't know if that's just us three being on the weaker side of the damage profile or what, but yeah, some of these mobs definitely felt extremely tanky. But other than that, it didn't feel uh completely, I guess, undoable. I mean, considering we timed this, in my opinion, it's honestly not that bad, but yeah, like there are some pulls where I do agree, yeah, you probably nerf it, but at the same time, there are other options to go to, right? In this dungeon, like there's so many different paths you can take to avoid certain mobs that it's like okay, but then again, it becomes, why can't you just run this any way you want and it be the same difficulty, right? Makes sense. Makes sense. I understand that point of view. Um, for instance, you cannot get past Potatoed here. He's not very nice, or she. I don't know. Matriarch. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, Potatoed is not very nice. They are super tanky, drop eggies, and takes forever to kill. But on top of that, I don't know what else was going on, but we pulled some extra birdies, right? And then these little vile, I think they're vile fiends. I don't know, vile lashers, something like that. They would glow with like light powers. Don't exactly know what it was, but for whatever reason, it definitely made this feel like it was oh, it's healing. Okay, now that I'm looking at it, he just went from 25 to 30%. Okay, that makes sense. So these vile lasher thingamabobbers are actually healing, and for some reason, we got a bajillion more things. I completely forgot this happened. The main reason why is because this took forever. Um, I'm not really sure why those extras got pulled. I'm not sure if the tank accidentally hit them with a hammer or something, but or what. But like this pull just takes forever. Absolutely forever. And it's crazy. And I think those vile lashers have something to do with it because whenever they would go all glowy, like holy power infused or whatever, I guess they would heal. And I mean we got 6 birds here or something. And every time that shield does it, did I just tap? I really hope I just tap targeted there because he went from 40% to, yeah, okay, I'm tap targeted. Okay, that shocked me. I thought that shield disappeared and he went up to like friggin' from 40% all the way to 60%. That would have been ridiculous. But like I said, that pack felt insanely tanky. And that could be because of that healing shield that was going on. But like other than that, none of these did well. I mean, this belt. I think it's a Belcher, Sporelight Belcher, the tree face, tree tree mouth. I don't know. There's some guy from Brackenhide Hollow. I think it was Tree Mouth. That's what he looks like. It does a lot of damage, a lot of scary damage too, which is, could probably use a nerf, but maybe that's Blizzard telling us try to avoid these guys because they're scary. Um, which would be a perfectly good reason to avoid them, honestly. But yeah, other than that, I really didn't find any mobs particularly challenging. There were combinations, as you will see in a moment. We will go into the final pack here. Well, that big, if you remember Blinding Vale, there's that, I think it's the 6 or 8 pack of mobs going in. We're gonna try and pull this, which has a mini boss and I think 5 friends with him. Um, it don't go well. It don't go well, as you would probably assume. Um, this is one of the polls that people have been complaining about, but it is completely dodgeable. You don't have to go into this, but as you see, light bloom volley, and then some crazy AoE thing happens and knocks 2 of us down. And we get really, really close to the boss, and I'm shocked he didn't pull us, but as you saw, we wipe, which, fair. It is what it is. Run it back. And I know what you guys are thinking. You time this? I know, it's crazy. Uh, but we're also way over percent as well. So I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but the tank goes and dies here. So me and the priest are like, oh, back up, run away, get out of here. So we're waiting for our team to come back, and we get a nice little suit there. But yeah, so instead of running it back at that mob, we're like, let's go take out Treemouth because we fought him before, and he's really not that hard to kill. Pretty easy to kill as well. So run by, suit doesn't work, so it's like, oh, okay, sure. Beat up Treemouth here, and then we go on to the boss. So that's one of the things that I'm saying, like, you have other routes you can go, but it makes sense to complain that going one way is always more difficult than going the other way. Why is that? I get it. But like, there's always going to be the optimal route, right? Just like there's always the optimal build, meta tank, meta comp, and stuff like that. People are always going to be drawn to the most optimal way to go, which is fine. But if Blizzard nerfs things and like makes it a bit more accessible to go anywhere, that's great too. But there's still going to be the, best option to do this, this, and that. But yeah, it is. Other than that, honestly, I am excited for the Blinding Vale. This was my favorite dungeon to do in Mythic season or pre-season 1. I guess pre-season, expansion season. I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it, but Blinding Vale was my favorite dungeon to do out of all of them. And I genuinely think it's going to be great. I think the new frontals are definitely amazing as well. I don't think anybody can complain about those. Those are awesome. But yeah, so I'm excited for this dungeon. I don't think it was too bad. I could see where it could use some nerfs, but overall, I think this place is pretty darn solid. And as for enhancement, again, don't worry too much about it right now. With the season, they're still doing tuning. They're probably more focused on the outliers than us, who are, I do believe, are in the more balanced situation. So honestly, I don't see us getting nerfed, but I'm not sure if we will get buffed either. If anything, we're probably going to get more damage adjustments to burst to baseline. So we could be seeing those kind of changes instead. But overall, I'm happy with the state Enhance is in right now, and I am excited for season 2. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Laters!